was going to have this situated right here. I guess I'm just going to have to hold it. So the reason I'm doing this video, which some may protest against it, and I'm sure a lot of family would not agree with me discussing this, but the reason I'm making this video is to explain what's been going on, but also I think this should be talked about. So November 20th, we found out we were pregnant, and we were very excited. It had taken us almost a whole year to get to where we were to get pregnant. Unfortunately, on the 23rd of November, I started spotting, and that typically usually isn't a good sign. So I was in and out of doctor's offices. A lot of the times they told me it's too soon to tell, but I knew something was wrong because of the bleeding. I'm gonna fast forward, just picture a bunch of ER trips, and found out that this was an ectopic pregnancy, which means, if you're not super familiar on the female anatomy, there's your ovaries, and then your ovaries have the fallopian tubes that go into, where the baby forms, where the baby's supposed to form. For me, it was my right ovary, and then the fallopian tube. The baby was stuck in there, and if the fallopian tube would have burst, I could have died from internal bleeding. So yesterday morning, the day before, on Friday, I had an appointment following up with the bleeding and ultrasound, and they saw, Monday, about a week ago, I had a checkup, and they suggested giving me chemo. Obviously, chemotherapy is, although it's very good for people who are battling cancer, it also attacks your healthy blood cells and tissues, and so the reason they gave me the chemo was without being invasive surgery, to shrink the baby so my body could dissolve it, which obviously no mother wants. But it was my only choice because the baby was growing in the wrong spot. So fast forward to the day before yesterday, I had an appointment, and the baby was very persistent and wanting to grow, and the chemo didn't help. The chemo just made me feel awful for a week. I had missed work from it. My heart is just so sad for people who have to take chemo just to survive cancer, because I had one dose and it totally turned me into a shell of who I am. And then, so I had the appointment. They found out the baby was getting bigger and still in my fallopian tube. The doctor wanted to give me chemo again, but I said no, just because of the effects it gave me. Instead, I opted to do the invasive surgery. No, I don't have cancer. The chemo was supposed to get rid of the baby naturally. And so yesterday morning, she scheduled me to have the surgery. This surgery is very invasive and very hard to deal with. But yeah, yesterday morning I had the surgery, and so we got there at 5:30 in the morning. They started rolling me back for surgery around 7:30 in the morning. And so the way they do it is as a laparoscopic surgery, and they stick a tube down my belly button to view everything. It's a panoramic view of my abdominal area. And then on either side of my stomach, they stick the tools that cut the baby out. They also had to give me a tube down my throat for breathing and a catheter, which is never fun. The surgery lasted about an hour, hour and a half, and then recovery took me almost 3 to get out of the anesthesia. Which I guess when I asked the nurse about it, she said it just depends on the person. So I wasn't awake, no. They gave me general anesthesia to sedate me, so I wasn't awake for it. Thank God, because that probably would have been traumatizing if I was. For the miscarriage I had 2.5 years ago, I was awake for it. They just gave me something to calm me down. But this time they had to fully sedate me because this was a very invasive surgery in my abdomen. And unfortunately, the baby was so large that in my fallopian tube that they had to take out the whole tube on my right hand side, which means now I have half of what it takes to get pregnant again. I can still get pregnant, but it's going to have to be through my left ovary and fallopian tube. So yeah, I'm missing now my right fallopian tube. The way, I guess, that when the doctor came back to tell Nate everything, this is how she described it. It was like a snake had swallowed a mouse whole, and I was very close to rupturing. And so it was a good idea on our part to not get the chemo again, but to do the surgery, because had I waited and done the surgery later or done more chemo, it probably would have burst. So I'm glad that we decided to do the surgery. I've never had an invasive surgery before. So it was very, very nerve-wracking, to say the least. I mean, obviously nobody wants to have invasive surgery, but I did. So, and I'm feeling okay right now. I'm just in a lot of, not a lot, but I'm in a moderate amount of pain around my belly button where they stuck the camera through down into my lower abdomen area. But unfortunately, the baby obviously didn't make it, which is really sad. This is the second time something has happened where we've tried to get pregnant. And the statistics for an ectopic are 1 in 80 women, and the statistics for miscarriage are 1 in 4. So thank you for those who are commenting. I appreciate that. It's been a really hard time for us, because also on November 27th, my dog died. So there's just been a lot of loss recently. And if you're wondering what dog I'm talking about, the one up in Washington, Hart. He had kidney failure. He was only 10 years old. But it was so far advanced, there was nothing that could be done. So, that's why we haven't been uploading as much. I've missed work. I've, been in pain. There's just been a lot going on. But so anyway, and again, starting back to where I was starting with this conversation about how this probably isn't the best, some people might think this is too TMI or too personal to share, but the reason I am sharing it is because the way I view it, it's not talked about enough. And to me, making this video is hopefully educational, in that this does happen more often than you think. In fact, my doctor said she does these surgeries, her alone, ectopic surgeries, 2 to 3 times a week. So this is more common than you think. Unfortunately for me, I've now had miscarriage and an ectopic and removed half of my, you know, chances of getting pregnant again. I still can. It's just going to probably be harder and take a lot longer. But following that, Nate and I aren't giving up on having another baby. Once we're given the clear to that we can try again, we're going to start trying again. So there's always hope. And if we don't get pregnant again, I mean, we're blessed in that we have Christine. So we can't complain. We can't, you know, this is life. It happens to people, and that's the reason why I'm explaining this and talking about this for anybody else who has gone through this or have heard of it. It happens, and more regularly than you think, and there's no rhyme or reason why these things happen. It just how it happens. So my abdomen is very swollen right now, and so they didn't put stitches. They put, I guess, medical adhesive glue inside to close me up, and then I have like this tape on top. The incisions aren't big. They're like this long, but the ones on my side, and then my belly button is the one that hurts the most. And it's like, because that's where they put the scope of the camera in, was through my belly button. But again, I don't feel pressured to share these things with you guys. I'm not sharing it for the views or anything like that. This is literally me discussing this with you, so thank you. I appreciate that. I just wanted this to be more of a movement of awareness towards that this does happen, and it can happen to anybody for no reason at all. And I have had support from my family, from friends here in Colorado, and you know, the people who have taken my shifts for work so I can digest this and have the surgery and all those ER visits I was having. I appreciate. So that's why we haven't been as focused on YouTube, because there's been a lot of there's just been a lot of personal stuff going on. My throat still hurts. So they could, when they monitored me breathing, they had to put a scope down my throat, and it still hurts. But anyway, I'm not going to be very long-winded about this. I might make a separate video talking about from start to finish exactly what happened, and maybe just more educational what exactly ectopic is without just generalizing it to update everybody. But like I said, I don't feel pressure to let you guys know. It's more, like I said, educational, and that it does happen. But you know, Nate's been super supportive. I probably couldn't have done that, all of this, without him. He's been coming to my appointments, and we had to break the news to Christine again, which was really hard. So anyway, I'm gonna end this here. And God. Thank you. But yeah, I'm gonna end this here. I just wanted to let you guys know I'm okay. We're all okay. It's just been a lot of loss. So I'll see you guys later.